Well, road rage is the topic for today's Crime Watch. I'm Mark Crosby of Quincy Access Television. Thank you for joining us. Joining me in studio is Captain Ralph Willard from the Quincy Police Department. Captain, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I thought this program was timely, and I know you're going to share an incident that happened actually in my hometown recently, which ended in a death, unfortunately, and it was a road rage incident.
Yes, I mean, I don't know the particulars of the case. This is just going off what I saw in the news myself, but basically two gentlemen got into what I believe was a minor motor vehicle accident. That accident turned into an argument, which turned into a physical confrontation between the two of them, and at some point one of them retrieved a firearm, and unfortunately one of them was killed. So now you have something that probably started as something minor, but ended with, unfortunately, a death, and another person that is facing some very serious charges and could end up in prison over it. So it can go from nothing to everything very quickly.
And I was listening to National Public Radio just yesterday, and there was a story not highlighting that incident, but just highlighting road rage overall and saying that that's really becoming a problem.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's number one, the congestion of the roadways. Everyone is in a hurry to get where they're going, so that you inevitably end up with conflicts on the road. But it's also just kind of a sign of the times, what's going on and other things like the election and what people agree and disagree on, and a lot of people are in kind of a heightened state of stress over other things. So it all comes together as one.
Folks will often hear aggressive driving instead of road rage, but it's one and the same.
Yeah, road rage will often include aggressive driving. It doesn't always have to, but aggressive driving is basically anytime someone is either speeding or tailgating or runs a red light. Anytime they're breaking rules on the road because they're in a hurry or they're just a careless driver. We refer to it as aggressive driving, but road rage has a whole separate level of aggression and anger that goes with that as well. So, but like I said, you can have a road rage incident even without the aggressive driving.
Now, have you been at on scene, I guess I'd say, when the culprit was road rage after speaking with, say, the parties involved? Has that ever happened?
Well, I myself probably not for a while, but it does happen. We'll get a call about a situation, and sometimes one of the parties will be long gone by the time we get there, but sometimes they'll both be on scene, and the officer will be able to speak to them and find out what happened. And sometimes you'll find out that in fact one of the parties got angry at something that the other driver did and blew it out of proportion and overreacted, and that's how you end up in those situations.
One of the things when researching this that I found, I guess, could relate to because my wife shared a story with me and about a coworker of hers.
Okay.
Nice woman, absolutely great, I suppose, kind of a get-along personality in the office. But when she got out on the road, she could be, I don't want to say she would be the culprit, but it's almost like, and this is going to kind of lead me to this safe haven and the car environment, which makes you as a driver feel anonymous or more protected.
Yeah, it's similar to what we see or what anybody sees. You see it on the news sometimes. How people in a crowd, like after a big win by a sports team, and everybody goes out in the streets to celebrate, and inevitably some people start doing vandalism and other crazy things that they would never do by themselves, but because they're in a crowd, they're anonymous, and they feel more empowered to do those things. It's also similar to when people post things online. They post nasty things online that they would never say to someone's face, but they're anonymous because they're online, so they feel free to do that. Being in the car, kind of being protected by the vehicle, the separation you have from the other driver, the fact that you don't know the other driver, they are anonymous to you, that all kind of plays into the same thing.
So let's talk about road rage intensifiers.
Okay.
What brings a person to a point where they, I guess, become involved in road rage?
Yeah, one of the big factors is stress, okay? But it can be many different kinds of stress that are involved. It could be something that we would all consider a very serious stressor, like losing a job or going through a divorce, a death in the family, that sort of thing. they can certainly involve those stressors, but it goes all the way down to, the person who is just running late for work and they happen to get behind you in traffic, and now they're angry at you because you didn't go through the yellow light that they were planning on running through. Something as simple as that can also set someone off. And what it really comes down to is the individual person and their ability or inability to cope with the stress, the anger that they're feeling.
You have a story regarding someone that ended up believing that they would be late for work. Maybe they would be late for work and found themselves behind a school bus.
Yeah, so I was driving to work one day myself, and I was going to work, so I was in uniform, but I had a jacket on over my shirt, just a plain jacket, and I was in my own car. And I was driving down a long main road in my town, single lane road, and this gentleman was behind me in a pickup truck, and we eventually came to a red light, and right before you get to the red light, the road widens to 2 lanes. So I took one, and he came to my right, but just as he did so, he started leaning on the horn, and I had no idea why. So when he pulled up to me at the red light, I rolled down my window and I said, "Hey, what's the problem?" And he started yelling at me, saying something about staying in my lane, and I really had no idea what he was talking about. But then it dawned on me. That whole way down the main road, I had been behind a school bus that made 3 or 4 stops along the way. This guy was behind me the whole time. It's a few minutes past the hour, so I'm thinking, okay, this guy's late for work. He's angry at the world now, and I just happen to be the person right in front of him. So, once I realized that, there's no need to go on with this conversation any longer. So I said, "Oh, okay, buddy, hope your day gets better, have a good one," and I went on my merry way. But that's how some of these situations start.
And I guess I'm going to kind of throw in distracted driving.
Yeah.
Because that can lead to road rage. And I guess I'm thinking of folks on their cell phone. Now, in Massachusetts, it's illegal to hold your device.
Correct.
But your device could be displayed on your screen that most modern vehicles have now.
Sure. And that's kind of not only with the cell phone, but it can be kind of a problem with modern vehicles because, like you say, they all have that main screen now. So that's another kind of distractor for you, even though you're not holding it. It might be something you might be looking at directions, or you're not familiar where the buttons are, and so yeah, those can all be distractions.
And I'm thinking that that could be happening at a red light.
Sure.
And that person's not looking up to see when the light changes. The person behind them honks their horn, and hopefully it doesn't go beyond that, but sometimes it does.
Yeah, exactly. I think part of the problem is that whenever someone, if someone loses their temper and they honk at you or yell at you, part of the problem is that whenever someone does that to us and we don't think we've done anything wrong, we want to then prove to that person, "Oh yeah, well, you're the one that's wrong, and I'm going to explain to you why." And then it just becomes something that it probably doesn't need to be,
So let's look at I guess, ways to avoid road rage.
Okay.
Both, I suppose, a person that might be the reason for the road rage, but also one that a person that might just be the victim of road rage. I guess how to diffuse the situation at any point.
Okay. Well,
regardless, again, as to who you are, whether you were the aggressor or not.
Sure. It's from the aggressor side, it's a little difficult to say because there are some people that are just naturally jerks in their life, and they're probably more prone to being a road rager.
Sure.
But then there's other people who are like maybe your wife's friend that is just perfectly nice person and just gets into a situation where they blow up at someone and they never really intended to. It was just the wrong day. So, like I said, stress is a big factor in all of it. So anything that's going to relieve your stress, getting enough sleep, proper diet, exercise, all those things. Because
all those things make sense.
Exactly. I know myself when I'm overtired, I'm a little more on edge. So I'm sure a lot of people are the same way. So anything, if you're aware of the fact that you're affected by stress when you're driving, and you know that it could make you, prone to be to road rage, then whatever practices you need to do to kind of relieve your own stress, that's a good way to look at it.
I suppose there was, during the research, I liked this point. Turn on music, because music tends to diffuse the situation.
Sure.
Maybe don't turn on the news necessarily.
Definitely.
Because that could aggravate you more. But definitely. Music is soothing, calming.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, every individual is different. But if you know that about yourself and you know how to relieve your own stress, then just keep that in mind. I mean, some people can, could have a very, very stressful day, hop in their car and drive home and never get mad at anyone. But some people don't have the ability to do that, and hopefully they're aware of it. I know some of them aren't aware of it, but you hope that they are.
Music is calming, I said, but if you are into metal and you're listening to AC/DC, maybe
Yeah,
not
well,
so
you
much.
know what? If that puts someone in a good mood, then it puts them in a good mood, you know?
It probably would, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you find yourself involved in a road rage incident. What could you do to, I guess, not escalate? So this would be not the aggressor necessarily. This is the person that I suppose feels victim.
So I think the first thing to keep in mind is in most of these cases, you know, if you've done anything wrong, it's probably pretty minor, okay? And the person that is overreacting to it really isn't angry at you. They're angry about something else, but now they found an excuse to vent and someone to aim their anger at. So try not to take it personal, okay? And the thing to keep in mind is that, you know, you don't owe this person anything. You don't owe them an argument or an engagement of any kind. So feel free to ignore them and just go on your way. Okay, that's probably your best bet. You know, if it gets to a point where, you know, you feel that they're threatening to you, maybe they're following you, that sort of thing, then keep in mind that you don't allow their actions to dictate how you are now going to drive. You know, don't drive excessively fast or go through red lights to try to get away from them. Just try to remain calm. And go to a place, a safe place. You know, if you know if there's a police station close by, that's a great idea. If not, a busy gas station, the parking lot of a busy store. Okay, any place where there's people around where they might, you know, offer you assistance or at least be witness to what's going on. So creating distance is your best bet.
Right, right. I guess I'm thinking too that a lot of these incidents will dissolve in a matter of minutes if you don't let it get to you, after the incident itself.
Sure.
What folks don't realize is another couple miles down the road, you might not be thinking about it, right? So if you just let the moment pass, it will pass quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was involved in one myself where a gentleman, he got angry at me because we were both behind a school bus, and, you know, when I asked him what the problem was, he yelled at me, and then I realized what was going on. He was running late for work. He got stuck behind a school bus. He was just angry. He wasn't necessarily angry at me. So I let it go, okay? And you know, you kind of have to be the adult in the room. You got to be the bigger person and walk away, right? And you know, when you do that, sometimes you feel like, oh, geez, I just lost that argument. But you really didn't. What you did do is you took control of the situation, right? And you didn't allow it to become something that it didn't need to be. Because if someone comes at you like that in a road rage situation, they've already lost their temper. They're already not thinking clearly. If you jump in and buy into what they're doing and become the same way, that's never going to end well. So sometimes in order to take control of a situation and stop it means just walking away or driving away from it.
Right. You don't know who you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Or who you could be dealing with, I guess, in any given moment. So one of the things is don't return gestures, right? If the person showed you, displayed an aggressive gesture,
sure,
let it pass. Don't make eye contact.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure, you know, in my opinion, I'm not sure if eye contact is always a bad or a good thing. It kind of depends on the situation and what kind of eye contact you're making. So if you get into a situation where someone else is yelling at you, whatever, and you decide to glare at them, give them a nasty look, add a hand gesture to it, obviously that's not going to make the situation any better. But, you know, let's say you do accidentally cut someone off and they get angry. If you can make eye contact and, you know, do something to show, you know, hey, sorry, just a mistake, my bad, you know, no problem, that's probably going to help diffuse the situation rather than make it worse. So it really just kind of depends on the situation and the people involved.
I think to avoid, one of the, I think, easiest ways to avoid an incident would be to not tailgate.
Yes.
There's a lot of tailgating going on, so don't tailgate the car in front.
Yeah, because sometimes what you'll get is, you know, you'll get the person who's the tailgater, and, you know, they're the aggressive driver that's up on someone else's bumper because they're in a rush, they're angry, whatever. And then the person in front of them eventually gets fed up with the fact that they're, you know, someone's tailgating them, and then they get angry and fed up, and the two of them, you know, they start tapping the brakes and they start doing their little dance, and eventually they end up in an accident that just never needed to happen. It was just, you know, two people being nitwits.
And there was a point through the research that what you really need to do, and this is kind of an older phrase, is somehow put yourself in that person's shoes, right? You don't know what they experienced that day. You don't know what they've been dealing with in their life.
Right.
So if you think potentially there might be something that that person was reacting to, then you have a little more tolerance and would see things differently and wouldn't escalate the situation.
Okay, so you mean if someone is being aggressive towards me, I try to figure out what they're thinking?
Right.
Yeah.
To a degree, and not, again, play into it.
Right. And like I said, I think the most important thing to remember is that, by and large, they are not angry at you. They don't even know who you are, okay?
Yeah, we talked about anonymous and safe havens and so on. It's not, right, they don't know you, you don't know them.
Right. They're just angry about something and they found an excuse to vent. And that's all it is. So, I think it's a lot easier to not take it personally if you think about it that way. And just, you know what, buddy, go on, have your day. I hope it gets better for you, but I'm not going to be involved in whatever mess you're trying to create now. So that's a good way to look at it.
We talked about diffusing or not even getting to the point where there's a road rage incident. We talked about the environment in the car. We talked about putting possibly music on, not paying attention to that screen as much. The other thing, too, is don't do anything that would potentially make yourself late for work or an appointment, just like the incident that you spoke of.
Sure. I have a friend who gets very, very anxious whenever he's running late for anything. Okay, so he has to leave early for everything. If you tell him to be there at noontime, he's going to be there at 11 because that's just the way he is. But he knows that about himself. So someone like that who gets very anxious about being late for things, they could be more prone to those kind of situations.
And I guess this goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway. Holidays, holiday traffic,
yes.
Holiday season, 4th of July, times where there may be more cars on the road. I suppose just simply time of day, right?
Sure. I had to go to my son's football game a couple of Friday nights ago, and it was north of Boston. So on Friday night, trying to make it to a 6 o'clock game north of Boston, and I live south of Boston, we were literally in traffic for about 2 hours. So of course I'm in the car like, okay, I want to hit my horn, I want to do something, right. But the person in front of me has nothing. They're in the same boat that I'm in. It's not their fault. So it's just something you have to deal with.
Let's say that there was a fender bender or some kind of an accident, and the two cars pull off the side of the road. Always a good idea to call the police for an accident report.
Yeah, if it's something minor and everybody is calm, you can go ahead and exchange information. But if there's anything more to it, if the person was driving aggressively, if they're yelling at you now that you pulled over, or you feel anything off about it, please give us a call. We can send an officer by. We do it all the time.
And I guess is an accident report often for insurance purposes is often a good thing to have too.
Sure. Yep. Definitely.
Any other thoughts, maybe things I didn't mention that you could bring to light regarding aggressive driving or road rage? We should mention that it isn't defensive driving. That's a totally different
Sure. Defensive driving is
thing.
just more or less, being careful and being ready for someone to adjust to someone else's mistake. That's defensive driving.
I suppose, I'm just thinking of this now. Road rage can happen between a bicyclist and
Sure.
an
Yeah,
automobile
definitely.
as well, or a pedestrian.
Even a pedestrian, Like I said, it's there's the aggressor, and then there's the person who is, the victim, if we want to say that. But it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be somebody in a car. It could be, especially on a bike. If somebody's having a bad day and someone on a bike cuts them off, okay, now I've got my target for my venting, and here we go. And the same thing can go for a pedestrian, surely.
And we said, obviously, the last program when we did pedestrian safety, we talked about not only bicyclists, but electronic motorbikes.
Oh, yeah. Anything. There's so many different vehicles on the road now. Regular bicycles, e-bikes, scooters, mopeds, skateboards. They're out there on everything.
I just want to share this point with you, a couple points actually, on how to avoid kind of getting to that level of intensity or that level of madness.
Mm-hmm.
Put a picture of your loved ones on the dashboard.
Okay.
You'll want to come home and return to them. That's kind of a good point.
Definitely. You know,
As long as it's not a distraction, it's a good point.
right, you know, I think any kind of reminder of what you stand to lose
Right.
if you get involved in a crazy situation that just doesn't need to happen. I mean, the example in Plymouth, the gentleman that retrieved the firearm, I guarantee you he would give anything right now to go back in time and not do what he did.
And he had a child in
Right.
the car, too.
Right. You know, and you know he did something horrendous, but you almost have to feel bad for him because you just like, geez, was he just a regular guy that just snapped? And you know, it's really tragic.
This point, limit alcohol. Alcohol, we're talking limiting, naturally don't drive
Sure.
under the influence. But this goes with alcohol, this goes with, marijuana is legal now in Massachusetts. So you get behind the vehicle, you get behind a vehicle, get behind the wheel of a vehicle, there's a responsibility there.
Oh, definitely, definitely. You never want to mix alcohol or any kind of drugs with driving a motor vehicle. That that just goes without being said. But those can also add to these situations because people sometimes when people drink, they can be more likely to react to something with anger or lose control quicker. So it's a bad mix.
And when we were talking about bicycles, you and I also discussed bike lanes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there could be a less of an understanding on how to treat bike lanes.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess basic bottom line is make sure you know the rules of the road.
Right. Know the rules and just be willing to be courteous to other people on the road. I think that's a big part of it. Some people
Courtesy.
Exactly. So people are in such a rush and they think they own the portion of road that they're on, and they feel entitled to just this is my space and I'm not sharing it. But it really can't work that way. You have to be courteous to other people on the road.
We talked about times of day to be that might be more of a challenge than others. Weather can be more of a challenge. Snow,
Yeah.
rain.
Yeah, anything that adds a challenge or more stress to the ride could contribute to these situations. So if, like you said, if you've got to be somewhere at a certain time, and especially if the weather is bad, leave yourself some time to get there. So it doesn't have to be a stressful ride. It might be a little longer than you'd like, but it doesn't have to be that stressful.
It's all based on stress and really how to manage stress.
Yeah, what it all comes down to is just the coping skills of the person involved. Because you could have somebody having the worst day of their life can jump in their car and drive home and not say boo to anybody or get angry at anybody. And then you could just have the regular guy who is running late for an appointment, and today's the day he's going to blow up at someone over nothing. So it's kind of hard to see it coming.
And with that said, a call can be made via your phone that's hooked up to your car.
Sure.
If you find that you're going to be late, that is a lot easier to deal with than getting into an accident.
Right.
Or road rage incident where you are going to be even later than that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's something that people need to remember is that there are far worse things out there than being late for an appointment or wherever you're going. Like you say, you could get into an accident. You could get into an accident with the wrong person, and it gets much worse than it should be. So, just keep those things in mind and just plan ahead.
Very good. As we close, anything that I missed that you'd like to shed light on? I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything extra, but just kind of be prepared, watch people around you, be courteous, and don't. If someone else gets angry at you over nothing, just try not to get wrapped up in what they're angry about, and then whatever happens, just stay calm and get to a safe place.
I guess there is one thing that I do want to bring up. What if you are a driver that's not maybe wasn't involved in a road rage incident, but sees a driver somewhere else on the road driving erratically, maybe speeding, pull over and inform the police?
Yeah, you can give us a call, the best you can with a description of the vehicle. If you can get the plate, even better. Where they were headed and what they were doing. So we can put that out over the air. The area cars can start looking for that vehicle if need be. And the thing to keep in mind is that, you might be afraid to call, but you might be the third person that's called is that night on that guy, and now we know, okay, something's wrong. This isn't just one complaint. Three separate people have called about this vehicle. You know, we should try to track it down.
And I mentioned speeding, but if you also are a witness to a potential road rage incident, certainly call.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you think there's one, if you're involved in one, if you witness one, give us a call. We got one just the other day that was called in as a road rage, but when the officer went down and spoke to the parties involved, it was a near miss. One vehicle followed another into the parking lot, but really just to say, you know, hey buddy, watch what you're doing. You almost ran into me. You're going to cause an accident. There was no aggression. There was no argument. There was no threats. So that would not be a road rage. But when the person, you know, in vehicle number one saw the other one follow them in, they probably thought, oh, here it comes.
Right.
You know, so that's why they called us. So it's not always going to be that way, but if you get a bad feeling, if you need help, give us a call.
There was a late night meeting here in the city of Quincy, and I was on my way back traveling down Route 3, and I think it was after midnight, and 2 lanes, right? 2 lanes either each way, north and south, and I saw going south a car coming at me in the other lane.
Okay.
So I did put a call in, and
Definitely.
It so happened that I wasn't the only call. Like you had mentioned, someone else may have called too.
Right.
But so that goes, I suppose, it works both ways. You can't, as the driver, say, well, someone else may be called, so I won't call.
Yeah.
Put the call in, and certainly if someone else called, well, that's great too.
Yeah. You know, if like you say, sometimes we tend to think, oh, somebody else will report that. But if you think you should call, just give us a call. It's a phone call, you know. And if we only get one, then we don't know, you know, what exactly is going on. But if we get 3, 4 on about the same car, now we know there's a problem.
And there might be an officer in that area
Exactly.
too that could respond,
Yeah.
show up, and just potentially check out the situation.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that's what we're here for. So.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing. Again, a topic that seems to be ever growing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if we can certainly cut it back, stop it from happening, certainly as we've seen just recently in Plymouth, that we could save lives.
Right. You never want it to get anything like that. That's just a tragedy.
Captain, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you at home for watching. And just please remember to support the local access station in the community in which you reside.